嚟教書真係第一次聽。
睇下個女。
The story begins with Henry, who has returned to Hong Kong after serving in the U.S. military for several years. Looking to start a new career as a teacher, he visits his former school, Tak Chi Secondary. The principal expresses concern about Henry's lack of teaching experience. However, after seeing a recommendation letter from a higher authority, he is given the job. Before Henry leaves, the principal warns him that the class he will be teaching is the worst in the school. The next morning, on his first day, Henry enters the classroom to find it in utter chaos. Some students are asleep, others are singing, a few are playing video games, and some are even cooking ramen on a portable stove. Despite his presence, the students completely ignore him and continue with their activities. Henry tries to grab their attention, but they pretend not to hear him. Resigned, he begins engaging with them based on their activities. He tells the students cooking ramen to eat less of it due to its high sodium content. Then, he notices a boy named Zufa playing the ukulele and offers him tips to improve. Similarly, he advises a gamer about the potential harm of radiation from staring at screens for too long. When the students finally start paying attention, Henry introduces himself and writes his name and phone number on the board. They laugh at his chicken scratch handwriting, and one of them jokingly tells him to leave. Henry laughs off their antics, but the students quickly lose interest and return to their previous activities. Frustrated, Henry uses a rubber band and a piece of chalk to trigger the classroom's fire sprinkler system. As water sprays everywhere, the students scramble to avoid getting wet. This finally captures their full attention, and Henry formally welcomes them to his class. After class, a group of the school's lowest-ranking students gathers in the sports supply room to smoke. Their leader, Jack, is caught staring at a picture of an A-grade student he has a crush on, and his friends mock him. The group shares a rivalry with the school's wealthy basketball team. The basketball players enter the supply room to taunt Jack and his friends about their lower status. Later, while the basketball team practices, Jack and his group watch from nearby. Jack throws a bottle onto the court, causing the team captain to fall. The group laughs, but is caught and sent to detention by Miss Leong, the English teacher. To escape detention, they prank Miss Leong and run away while she's distracted. Meanwhile, the principal is stressed because the education board plans to cut 20% of the school's funding. Inspectors from the board arrive for an evaluation. At the same time, Henry enters the classroom, where students have set up a prank with a bucket of water. However, his quick reflexes prevent the bucket from falling on him, leaving the students shocked. Henry asks Jack for his packet of cigarettes, which Jack hands over curiously. Henry then asks Zufa to name 3 ingredients found in cigarettes. After Zufa answers correctly, Henry allows him to skip class for the day. This sparks demands from other students to skip class as well. Henry gives each student a cigarette and asks them to examine it closely. Instead of lecturing them about smoking's dangers, he engages them in a discussion about its harmful effects, such as how tar builds up in the lungs. For the first time, the students show genuine interest in learning. Before the class ends, Henry collects the cigarettes, and the students reluctantly comply. During lunch, the basketball team captain trips Jack's friend Bruce, sparking an argument between the two groups. The situation quickly escalates into a food fight, leaving the cafeteria in disarray. Later, 5 students from Henry's class, including Jack, are suspended for starting the fight. Henry stops Jack from fighting in the hallway and tries to calm him down. Jack accuses the school of favoring wealthy students while punishing the poorer ones. That evening, Henry reviews the files of the suspended students to learn more about their backgrounds. Zufa, the first student, is the son of a Pakistani immigrant and often faces racial discrimination. He dreams of becoming a musician, but struggles due to constant accusations of theft in his neighborhood. Danan, the second student, has always felt rejected by her father, who wanted a son. She even cut her hair short and pretended to be a boy to gain his approval, but her efforts went unrecognized. Bruce and Chris, 2 brothers, grew up in a broken home. Their mother left when they were young, turning their father into an alcoholic. While Bruce turned to video games to escape reality, Chris took on the responsibility of earning money for the family. Lastly, Jack's family background remains a mystery. However, we see him working as a waiter at a restaurant. There, he encounters Jinying, an MMA bettor, and steals his lighter. Caught red-handed, Jack is beaten up, but Jinying offers him a job as a delivery boy later. Henry visits Zufa's home and finds him running from his father and associates after stealing a ticket. Initially, Henry helps Zufa, but after learning the details, he sides with Zufa's father. They end up hanging out at a bridge where Henry encourages Zufa to pursue his musical dreams. Inspired, Zufa joins a street band and performs in front of an audience for the first time, overcoming years of bullying. Meanwhile, Bruce and Chris's father returns home drunk, as usual. He demands beer from his sons, and when they refuse, he yells at them to leave. The brothers' strained relationship with their father deepens. The next day, Henry meets their father and convinces him to seek help at a rehabilitation center for the sake of his sons. The father agrees, and the brothers are hopeful for change. Danan's father, meanwhile, brings her a bag of makeup products and insists she act like a girl. Danan, fed up with his constant disapproval, applies the makeup on her younger brother to spite him. She then sneaks out with her father's car key, intending to drive away. Just as she is about to leave, Henry intervenes, warning her about the dangers of driving without a license. He then offers a more constructive alternative. They go to a go-kart racing track, where Henry invites her father to join them for a race. During the race, Danan's father becomes more competitive, showing a softer side of him. However, the race takes an unexpected turn when Danan's cart collides with a car. Danan narrowly avoids a crash, but her father mistakenly believes she is dead. In an emotional moment, he realizes that he does love her, and they share a heartfelt hug. The following day, Bruce and Chris are assigned to interview a recovering alcoholic at a rehab center as part of their punishment. To their shock, the person they have to interview turns out to be their father. The brothers learn that their father's drinking problem began after their mother left, and he shares his regret for neglecting them. The brothers, moved by his honesty, finally let their emotions out and cry. Elsewhere, Jack starts working for Jianying, who offers him a lot of money to drug a fighter's drink during an upcoming match. Jack is reluctant, but he is pressured into accepting the deal. On the day of the fight, Jack prepares the drink, but is caught in the act. He is beaten up, locked in a locker, and left to fend for himself. At that moment, Henry arrives at the venue and demands to know if anyone has seen his student. The thugs ask him to leave, but when Jack calls out for help from inside the locker, Henry rushes to his aid. Henry takes on the thugs with ease, using his military training to subdue them. A fight ensues, but Henry manages to knock out their top fighter in a dramatic showdown. Soon after, they are at the hospital, where Henry is treated for his injuries. Jack tries to confess that Jianying was behind the whole situation, but Henry silences him to protect him. The story spreads in the media, and Henry becomes known as the man who defeated a professional fighter to save his student. This boosts his popularity in school, and the students begin to respect him. In a flashback, we learn that Henry was once a troublemaker in school, playing pranks on teachers and fellow students. In one instance, he threw water balloons at a student playing piano for a parent event, leading to a fight where he broke the student's hand. This incident resulted in his suspension and eventual move to the United States. Now, back in the present, Henry's students begin to take their studies seriously. They prepare diligently for the upcoming college entrance exam, motivated by Henry's dedication. However, Bruce, struggling with drug addiction, begins to lose focus. His performance in the mock entrance exam is dismal, and he grows increasingly depressed. Ultimately, Bruce attempts suicide by jumping off their balcony. Bruce is rushed to the hospital and falls into a coma. The media sensationalizes the incident, blaming Henry and the school for Bruce's actions. The education board decides to revoke Henry's teaching license, and he is forced to pack up and leave the school. His students, heartbroken, chase him as he leaves, begging him to stay. They promise to study harder and prove to the board that Henry is a great teacher. On the day of the entrance exam, Jack and his classmates receive a text from Henry, asking them to meet at the school an hour before the test. When they gather, they discover that Jianying had orchestrated a scheme to keep them locked in the school, so they would miss the exam. Jianying hopes to teach Henry a lesson for ruining his music career. Henry arrives and quickly realizes what Jianying has done. He frees the students and fights off Jianying's henchmen. A tense battle ensues between Henry and Jianying. During the fight, Jianying reveals that he is the student Henry once pranked, causing him to break his arm. He explains how the incident ruined his dreams of competing in a music competition and how he's blamed Henry ever since. Henry, deeply remorseful, tries to make amends but is attacked once again. In a final showdown, Henry knocks Jianying down, refusing to kill him despite the intense conflict. He asks for forgiveness for his past actions and walks away. Meanwhile, the students rush to the exam hall just in time to take the test. Weeks later, the results are in. All of them pass with flying colors. Jianying, moved by the events, begins playing the piano again, though he knows he has much to relearn. Bruce, recovering from his coma, vows to try again next year for the entrance test. The principal is overjoyed, as the education board decides to reward the school with a 20% bonus for their students' outstanding performance. Henry, reinstated as a teacher, returns to class. To celebrate, he pulls off his signature fire sprinkler trick with a new batch of students, leaving everyone laughing and learning in their own way.